Book review. Book review. Book review. Book review. Book review. Hey everyone, I'm back. It's been quite a while since I've kind of done a review on this channel. I've been busy with life and school and stuff, and I was really busy over the summer, so I didn't really get a chance to film anything really, and or post any videos. The last video I posted was just a few days ago. It was my Taiwan trip vlog, or sort of vlog thing. It was just sort of like a montage of photos and some videos I took when I was over there. So yeah, today I am back reviewing again on my channel, and today I'm going to be reviewing the first book of the Thrawn Trilogy by Timothy Zahn, known as Volume 1, Heir to the Empire. So this is a good book, so I'll just give you a brief background on it. So after the original trilogy came out in the late 70s, early 80s, basically what happened was, in the early 1990s, like 1990, I think this particular book came out, you had a sequel trilogy commissioned by, I don't know if it was Lucasfilms. I'm assuming it's Lucasfilms, like they commissioned it. And this series of books, like the first book here, this sort of started what was known as the expanded universe in Star Wars. Basically, the EU, I can't really explain it that well, but it's just sort of, it was like expanded stuff. Like that's what the Old Republic is, that's what the Thrawn Trilogy is, that's what Jedi Academy is. You had all these books basically going after the Star Wars timeline was sort of measured. So if you remember in A New Hope, it's measured with the Battle of Yavin, I think, when they blew up the first Death Star, and everything's sort of measured from that point onwards. Sort of think of like AD, BC, kind of thing of like that. So basically, the expanded universe covered everything from like 0 BY, I think it's called, before the Battle of Yavin, and it'll go all the way back like thousands and thousands of years, and that's where you get like the Old Republic. You get the Palpatine book where he's the apprentice of Darth Sidious. Yeah, it's Darth Sidious. And then you get, I think it goes all the way to, it's like 120 years after, you have like Luke's great-great-great-grandson or something, Caleb Skywalker. I don't really know that really well, because I haven't read much of the EU myself, but I've been told this particular book's really good, or this trilogy of books is really good. Some even call it the true sequel trilogy, depending on how you feel about that. But basically, like when Disney bought Lucasfilms in like 2012 and 2014, they sort of declared everything in the EU like non-canon. So only like the prequels. I think the Old Republic was maybe still canon. I don't 100% quote me on that. And then he also had the original trilogy and the new sequel trilogy and whatever new books came out. And then he also had like Star Wars Rebels. He had Star Wars Clone Wars. So basically, like nearly everything, I think like 90% of what was in the EU was just not considered canon anymore. So I'm not sure. But they did bring back Thrawn, though, who a lot of fans are upset that he's cut out because he's such like a well-loved and well-known character in the EU. And yeah, so they brought him back in Star Wars Rebels, I think, Season 3. And they sort of placed him in the pre-New Hope timeline. So I think that's what they sort of did with him. So that's sort of the expanded universe explained in a nutshell. I don't know too much about it. I haven't gone in depth into it. But yeah, today I'm going to be reviewing Heir to the Empire by Timothy Zahn. So this is the first book in the Thrawn Trilogy. This would basically start the whole Star Wars expanded universe. So I'll just read the back of it. It's 5 years after Return of the Jedi. The Rebel Alliance has destroyed the Death Star, defeated Darth Vader and the Emperor, and driven the remnants of the old Imperial Starfleet to a distant corner of the galaxy. Princess Leia and Han Solo are married, inspecting Jedi twins, and Luke Skywalker has become the first in a long-awaited line of Jedi Knights. But thousands of light years away, the last of the Emperor's warlords have taken command in the shattered Imperial fleet, readied it for war and pointed at the fragile heart of the New Republic. For this, Dark Warriors made two vital discoveries that could destroy everything that the courageous men and women of the Rebel Alliance have fought so hard to build. The explosive confrontation that results in a towering epic of action, invention, mystery, and spectacle on a galactic scale is, in short, a story worthy of the name Star Wars. So, my first thoughts about this book, it definitely captures the feel of the original trilogy. Like, I would say it does a lot better than the sequel trilogy. Like, I liked The Force Awakens a lot. I personally enjoy it. A lot of people crap on it. because they feel like it's ripped off A New Hope. It's definitely better than The Last Jedi. I think we can all agree that The Last Jedi is not a good movie. I did not particularly enjoy The Last Jedi. But I did enjoy The Force Awakens. I like what J.J. Abrams had sort of set up in the mysteries and all that, and, who are Rey's parents? Who's Snoke? Where's Luke Skywalker? Stuff like that. What's Finn's role in all this? It's sort of stuff like that. I particularly enjoy what they did for Rey's character, like, who are her parents? Like, is she a Skywalker? Is she a Kenobi? Is she something else entirely? Is she a Palpatine? I think, or she's a clone of Darth Vader. I think that's the most wild theory I heard out there, but we know that's false. Supposedly in Episode 8, you have Kylo Ren say to her, your parents were nobodies, they were drunks, they sold you away for drinking money, more or less, just for alcohol. They're just nobodies, like it didn't matter, but I think, because Kylo Ren likes to lie a lot, and he's a Sith, so you don't really know, and J.J. Abrams can come back around in Episode 9 and sort of retcon that, and, because Episode 8 had a lot of issues. There's some parts of it that I enjoyed, but I didn't like it because it was too convoluted and didn't make sense in like the universe. Like things that weren't established in the universe weren't like things that were established in the universe, and this movie sort of came along and it didn't work within the established universe. Like it didn't make sense to the rules. Yeah, like I can compare it to Avengers: Infinity War, like we're a movie that had a lot of twists and surprises, but it did it in a way that was satisfying and in a way that made sense because it was already established over a longer period of time. It just wasn't like suddenly thrown in, like Luke being able to project himself across the galaxies of Force Ghost. Like nobody could do that in the original trilogy unless they were like dead. Yeah, like when they show up on Endor, like you have Ben Kenobi, Yoda, and Anakin show up. But they're dead. That makes sense. I could wrap my head around that, but Luke force projecting himself as a ghost halfway across the galaxy, that just didn't make sense to me. And the whole Rose character, nothing against the actress, just was a poorly written character. Anyway, this isn't a critique of The Last Jedi, but this is a critique of Heir to the Empire. So, in a lot of people's opinion, for those who don't like the new sequel trilogy, this is the sequel trilogy that they wanted. Like, this is episode 7 for them, Heir to the Empire. So basically, my thoughts about the book was, yeah, it captured the original feel of the original trilogy. It's well written. It introduces a lot of new characters. Like, Thrawn is very interesting. He's, I'll probably post a photo of him in the review, but he's like this tall, sort of blue guy with these weird eyebrows and red eyes. He's a really cool villain. He's really intimidating. He's probably, I would say, the third best, no, probably the third or fourth. I don't think much of Boba Fett because he only did 2 things in the original trilogy. He just sort of captured Han Solo and then was ate by the Sarlacc, whatever it's called in the pit there. So I don't think much of him. So I'd say he's like the third best villain in the trilogy, or the Star Wars universe. Maybe better than the Emperor because he's a lot more personality, and the Emperor in the prequels is just bonkers. I mean, the guy who plays him, I think his name is Ian Drummond. I don't know his name. He has lots of fun with it though. Yeah. Excuse me, sneeze. Anyway, back to the review. I would probably say he's like the second or third best villain in the trilogy. No, the original like Star Wars universe before the EU was taken away. But the Emperor did a lot of fun stuff in the prequels. That is like truly meme-ish, and sort of like that. It's sort of like the quality of it. It's sort of like The Room. It's like the movie The Room. Like the performance in it is just so bad, but it's like so incredible at the same time. It's so bad it's good. You understand what I'm saying? So it's kind of like it holds a very special place in my heart because it made me laugh a lot, unintentionally. So yeah, Thrawn is a good character. You get Mara Jade, who later becomes Luke's wife later in the series. Spoiler alert, but this book's been out for like 25 plus years, so I don't think really it's a spoiler. And it's not canon anymore, which really sucks because there's some characters in here I wish they kept, like, well, they brought back Thrawn, but I wish they kept Mara Jade in the original trilogy. And then you get Han Solo and Lando, and you get all the original guys, like C-3PO, Leia's there, she's pregnant with Jedi twins, stuff like that. I've only read the first book, and I'm reading the second book. They don't really talk about that. And then Chewbacca's there, and then R2-D2's there, and mentions of Yoda and Darth Vader. But to summarize the book, I say I did enjoy it. There was some parts where it felt like it wasn't well written enough in some parts, I found. That was some parts I struggled with it. But I liked like all the new planets they visit. I think this was sort of like the first really big exploration of Chewbacca's home planet, Kashyyyk, I think that's what it's called. Outside the holiday special, we don't talk about the holiday special. I don't think that really counts, but this was sort of like the really first in-depth description of his home planet and what it was like, sort of what the culture is like, what other Wookiees are like beyond his own. And they start to talk about how the Emperor enslaved Wookiees, which we would later see in the prequel trilogies. So that was good. And then we sort of visit other planets. I think the best one they probably visit, it's like called Minert. It's like this forest planet where this smuggler named Taron Cade, I think his name is, with Mara Jade. And that's probably the best new world. And they're on Coruscant, and they're talking about just the Imperial Palace, sort of like they were setting up this. You can tell the prequels were a lot inspired by this book because in the original trilogy, you didn't hear anything about Coruscant. You never saw what it looked like. It wasn't until the prequels where you got like a better look at it and more in-depth look. But sort of because of this book, I think this was like the first in-depth exploration of it. They don't really explore like the whole planet. They don't explain like how the cities are all on different levels, like in the prequels and the other books. But it's just sort of like the first like real look at the planet and sort of what it's like and how it's the capital of the Empire, the New Republic, as they call it in this book. Luke is good in this book. He does a lot of stuff like fights against Thrawn and stuff like. I don't really want to give too much spoilers away, but I'm just sort of giving you a brief description of the characters too. Leia is kind of useless in the book, which is really a shame, because I understand she's pregnant and Luke's training her to be a Jedi, but like she doesn't really do much. Like she's kind of there at a few battles, but then she's on Kashyyyk with Chewie for a while, and it's Luke who gets the most sort of page time, I don't know, screen time, I don't know what to qualify it as. In the book, like it's still mainly a Skywalker story, and he was the protagonist in the original trilogy, so it does make sense to follow him. And then I would sort of say Han Solo and Lando get a bit more screen. It's mainly still Luke and Mara Jade and Thrawn. I think those are the three biggest characters they focus on. And there's like a Dark Jedi Master called Chobot. I don't know how to say his name. Forgive me for that. So it's mainly still focused on those three characters. Mara Jade is a good character. They introduced her. I liked her. Basically, if you don't know anything about her, she's sort of like a right-hand man or woman to the Emperor, and would sort of go and do assignments that the Emperor didn't want to do, like the really dirty and bad ones where blood would get shed. I mean, the Empire shed a lot of blood, but this was sort of like ones they didn't really want people to see. Because the Emperor was sort of like a fascist, totalitarian dictatorship, but they wanted to present themselves in such a way that was good for propaganda, so she kind of went and did things that the Emperor didn't want people knowing in public. Kind of like Bucky Barnes with Captain America, how he sort of did missions that the Allies didn't want Captain America to do, or he refused to do, that were like too bloody, or would cause him to kill lots of people. So sort of like that. So her character's really good. It's another really strong female character in the canon, or the old canon, with Leia up there. So, and she later becomes Luke's wife later in the EU. Excuse me. From what I understand, I don't know what the circumstances are, because she wants to kill Luke Skywalker in the book. Like, she absolutely hates his guts, wants to kill him. So one thing I sort of struggle with the book, there's these things called Yulslarmi. It's like basically in the forest planet that Luke goes to, like after a fight with like Thrawn, he manages to escape from his Starship Destroyer, and his X-Wing's like damaged, and he's sort of just drifting out there in space like he's gonna die, but then he's picked up by Mara Jade and Tara Khan, or Tara Kate? I don't know how to say most of the Star Wars characters' names. They're a little hard to say if you understand what I'm saying. And yeah, they basically go to this forest planet. Luke is held hostage there, but he can't use the Force for some reason. Like, why can't I use the Force? It's basically because there's like these snake-like worm creatures. They're like if caterpillars were snakes and were covered in fuzz, but they were harmless. They wouldn't do anything. They basically could block out the Force, and if there was like multiple ones of them, they could do it for like kilometers and kilometers. So imagine like a forest planet just full of those, and then there's other creatures called Vorshniks. They're kind of like greyhounds if they were like really, really deadly. I mean, greyhounds are like deadly dogs. My friend David has one, and he's killed a few baby raccoons. It's kind of messed up. Excuse me. But yeah, the book was good. I did the Yulslarmi thing. I kind of found that stupid. Like that kind of felt like a plot device. Like it was kind of stupid. They just don't want Luke to use the Force and just like overwhelm anyone, and it also limited Margie and stuff like that. But Thrawn is a great character. I think he's probably the character I enjoyed reading about the most in this book, and then probably be Luke and then Han Solo. So Thrawn is like a Grand Admiral of the old Imperial fleet. He's one of the only ones left. So he's out way in the unknown regions of the galaxy, and he started plotting to bring the Empire back. And he does a lot of stuff. Like he's sort of like the Napoleon of the Empire. If Napoleon was really smart and didn't do all the stupid military maneuvers, he's sort of more like I don't know any names of Nazi commanders. He's sort of like the Nazi commanders if they didn't do all the blunders and they wiped out all the troops at Dunkirk and they hadn't decided to invade Russia. They're sort of like if everything went right for Hitler and Napoleon, they would have Thrawn. That's sort of the ideal commander. He's, as I said, he's a lot like Napoleon if Napoleon decided not to be stupid and lose to all the forces back then in the early 19th century. So yeah, I really enjoyed his character. He's like a guy named Captain Pelion, kind of cool character. He's kind of just there. He doesn't do much. Like he's sort of there as Thrawn's second-hand man. He's kind of like, okay, sir, I'll do whatever you want, you know. I really enjoyed though what they set up. Like Admiral Akbar was in the book too. He's fine. He's barely in it. He gets arrested for treason at the end of the book. That starts setting up for the sequel book, which is Dark Forces Rising, which I've read the first 60 pages of, and it's just as good as the first book. So yeah, I enjoyed the writing style of the book was fine. I found the climax to be a little rushed, because it was mainly focused on Luke on this forest planet with Mara Jade and sort of dealing with her, because like Mara Jade absolutely hates Luke, wants to kill him, wants to get rid of him because, you know, he killed the Emperor and he basically destroyed any life that she had. So she basically couldn't do anything. She was without anyone. So that dynamic was really interesting, and knowing the information that they get married later and have kids, that really adds to it, and I'm really interested to see how their relationship evolves and how she probably comes back over to the light side of the Force and doesn't want to kill Luke and stuff like that, and she learns the truth about episode 6. Stuff like that. So yeah, just the climax of the book where they're fighting on the sort of shipyard planet and they're trying to get the Moonlanders away. It just felt really rushed. It was only like 20 minutes. It should have felt like it had been like 40 or 50 pages at most. Like they could have done the climax better. It was mainly focused on Luke on the forest planet with Marjorie, because they're setting that up. And they're mainly also focused on Leia giving birth to Jedi twins. So what's going to happen there? But that doesn't really matter because it's not canon. It's still interesting though to look at, because this is sort of like for not for fans of the new sequel trilogy. This is sort of their sequel trilogy that they wanted, but they can't do it because the actors got too old. And this is written like 7 or 8 years after the original episode 6 came out. So yeah, I'm going to rate this book a solid 8 out of 10. It's still good. It's enjoyable. I enjoyed it a lot. The writing style is fun. It really captures the feel of the original trilogy. It introduces a lot of great new things, new planets, new characters. Thrawn, Mara Jade, this Chibogov guy. Han Solo is great. Lando's his usual self, kind of gambling way, but he's kind of like legitimate. I wish they did more with Leia and Chewbacca. They didn't really do anything. R2-D2 did a lot of stuff with Luke, so he had a bit more of a role. C-3PO didn't do anything. He didn't do anything in the original trilogy, though. He was just sort of there. In episode 6, he did some stuff, but just kind of there. But Thrawn is probably the best character out of this book, and I'd say Mara Jade. And then their Tarion and Kate guy, the smuggler that they introduce. And just sort of the new planets that they bring in, and how they talk about the Emperor and all the secret stuff that he supposedly left behind on this one planet in the mountain. So I think that's really good. So I think the book's good. I definitely recommend it. If you want to read something, if you're dissatisfied with the original sequel trilogy, and if you want something better, this is sort of the book for you. If you do not enjoy the new sequel trilogy, this is the sequel trilogy for people who are not fans of the sequel trilogy. So yeah, thank you for listening to my review, and I shall see you all later. Oh, one thing I forgot to add to the review, the sequel trilogy inspired George Lucas to start up the prequels, inspired him to get back into filmmaking and film the Star Wars prequels. So forgot to mention that. Coruscant was obviously inspired by it, so yeah, forgot to mention that, just quickly putting this in. And we all know how the prequels turned out.